Right, this is breaking news. I've just got off the phone from 2 Porsche dealerships. They've told me the GTS is a limited run car too. If you don't have new buying history from Porsche, you're not going to get a GTS. 2 dealerships have just told me that today. I thank them for their candid honesty, but I'm upset. I'm upset because not only is the GT4 limited allocation, they've done it the same thing with the GTS. So I can't get a naturally aspirated 718 6-cylinder block. What is a bloke supposed to do? Hooray! They finally did it. They finally put a 4-litre naturally aspirated engine in the Cayman GTS, the 718, and they're finally giving us the car that we've all been asking for right from the start, the launch of the 718. We didn't really want a 4-cylinder pot. They tried to tell us it was the right thing for us. Some people listened. I feel really sorry for those that bought a 718 4-cylinder pot, because second-hand values are going to plummet. I mean, they're going to really plummet. I'm sorry about that. But one thing I've got to say about Porsche, the test of a good character, they say, is to admit when you've made a mistake and to make good on your mistake. A bit like me, you know, the older that I've got, I have realised that Mrs. Max Revs can be right more often than I give her credit for, and I can be wrong. So Porsche have pretty much done the same thing. They finally admitted they've put the 4-cylinder naturally aspirated block into the GTS and have given us that car. It's an interesting thing, because one thing that confused me, we were all told the 4-cylinder 718 was introduced to solve the emissions issue. It was lower on the CO2. So I think I've got the rough numbers. The 718 4-cylinder block pumped out 180 grams per kilogram. The outgoing 981 Cayman Sport pumped out about 220 grams per kilometre. And then the new GTS with a 4-litre block pumps out about 240 grams. So this is what I find quite surprising, is that the new 718 GTS with a 4-cylinder block pumps out more CO2 than the outgoing 981 Cayman Sport. So I think internally they probably fluffed up. They had the engine in the 981, the Cayman Sport, and that's a 3.4 litre block, naturally aspirated, and they said, we're going to just stop the engine production on this, we're going to move over to the 4-cylinder blocks for the Cayman, and obviously the smaller engines in the 911 that are turbocharged. Bringing back the naturally aspirated engine, I think it's a last hurrah for us to say this is probably the last chance Cayman owners can get such a fantastic car before all goes hybrid. But there's one thing that gets me about this, it's the pricing. So the 718 Cayman base starts at £44,000 in the UK. You can then go for the Cayman Sport, that's £54,000. And then you can actually get the new 718 GTS, which starts at £64,000. Put a few little options on there, and you're going to be looking at, what, £70,000 at the minimum. You could easily go to £74,000 on options on a GTS. £74,000 is how much the GT4 costs. And what gets me on this, and you know, I'm a real Porsche fan here, believe me, if I'm considering to buy a GTS, I actually just want a GT4. I would try and get the extra £10,000 and I would get my forever car, which would be the GT4. And I found myself in a situation where, I know that people always said this about Ferrari, but the fact that the GT run is so limited, it's reserved for their special customer base. I want a GT4. I want more people to have a GT4. This is the last chance most of us will get to get our hands on an iconic car. The Cayman GT4 is just, you know, it's a nice car. You know I love that car. £64,000 for the GTS. It's an awful lot of money, and you know, basically you've got the smoked lenses. It looks like a regular Cayman. You don't get the wing on the GT4 and the aero treatment. And I guess what I'm saying is that I'm happy and I'm glad that Porsche have put a 4-litre block in the Cayman GTS. No doubt about that. And I think it takes a grown-up company to admit they were wrong, they didn't judge the market right, and they make good on themselves. And I take my hat off to them for that. But if you're going to spend £64,000, you're so close, you're within striking distance for the GT4, and that's the car that we all want, but we can't get because it's a limited production run. And I'm sorry, Andreas Preuninger said at the Goodwood Motor Show, we're going to make many more of these cars, it's not going to be so limited. If anybody wants one, if any enthusiast wants one, we'll give them one. I am a Cayman enthusiast. I want a GT4. I'm not getting a GT4, okay? Talking about the GT4, and then the sun opened up. Love the cars. Let me know in the comments below, are you in the market for a GTS? Is that the car that you're going to spec as a last hurrah for all the cars become hybridified, electrified? And as I said, the whole CO2 thing really kind of gets me, in the sense that the 718, the 4-cylinder pot, is about 180 grams of CO2 per kilometre, and if they can make the 4-cylinder GTS now, which pumps out more CO2 than the 981 that it replaced back in the days, how is that possible? You know, I thought they had to, by law, produce cars with lower CO2, but in fact the new 4-litre block in the GTS produces more CO2 than the old 981 Cayman Sport. Let me know if you know a lot about the car legislation and emissions regulations. Let me know in the comments below. Enjoying life and cars to the max. We all love a GT4. I love a GT4. It's just sad that it's probably not going to happen.